Good morning, everyone. How are you? Good. So we've got a very interesting session which I'm going to moderate. The topic is really how do you get more from less? It's very much around sustainability. It's about the environment. It's about the use of resources. And it's about how we can make more of the planet that we live on and the people who live on that planet and the technology and the resources that are available to us. So what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce the guests here with us this morning, some of whom have travelled a great distance to be with us today. We're going to then have a session where we will discuss with each of them the areas that are of particular importance to them. And what I would really like you to do, ladies and gentlemen, if possible, is to think about the topics and the issues that come up during this session that are most appropriate to you, and have some questions ready for the end of the session. So we're going to have a discussion here on stage for around about an hour, and then around 11 o'clock we're going to open that up to the floor. So are you ready to ask some good questions about sustainability? Oh, come on. Are you interested in sustainability? Are you interested in the environment? Great. I like to hear that. Okay. We've got a very loud one over here. Okay, so that's great, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. So let me come across and first of all introduce our guests this morning. I think it's true to say that each one of us sitting here on stage comes from a very different background, either culturally or educationally or in terms of the industries that they're working in. It's actually quite, I think, novel that the organisers have asked me to moderate on the session around sustainability, because I come from one of the most unsustainable businesses you would think on the planet, Formula One car racing. We basically take as much fossil fuel as possible, we throw it into our engines, and we try and produce as much power as we can. So on the surface it looks terribly unsustainable. I have to say, I think it's quite clever that they've asked me to moderate this session, because in point of fact, what I'm going to do later in my keynote address this morning is to turn those perceptions on their head and very much give an insight into how the research and development that we use in Formula One is actually going to have a big impact and is having an impact on developing sustainable technologies, particularly within the automotive sector. It's about really taking a given amount of fuel and getting as much energy out of that as possible in the most efficient way. So these are really some of the hot topics even in my industry. So first of all, let me introduce to my right Dr. Rashid Aleem. Good morning. Nice to see you here. So let me give you a little bit of background on Dr. Aleem. Dr. Rashid Aleem is the Director General, Sharjah Seaports, Customs and Sharjah Free Zones Authority in the United Arab Emirates. He is the driving force in transforming them into a strategic commerce hub and empowering thousands of businesses in the region, contributing to the development of the UAE economy. He is a board member of a range of business and trade organisations. He believes that true excellence can only be achieved through sustainability by aligning commercial, social and environmental objectives. He is furthermore a published author, founder of the Aleem Knowledge Centre, which is an organisation which he founded to promote leadership potential. I'm based in the UK. Dr. Rashid Aleem was educated in the UK as a PhD from the University of Salford, Manchester. Does that make you a Manchester United supporter or a Manchester City supporter?
City.
Okay, I'm pleased to hear. Manchester City supporter. Very important to get that one out of the way. And he has multiple honorary degrees, has been the recipient of numerous awards for his work. And I think most importantly, this includes a very prestigious award in 2012 here in Malaysia, Environmentalist of the Year, in recognition of his contributions towards a sustainable environment. He is known among his peers as the Green Ambassador of the UAE. That's a great title. So ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Rashid Aleem. Now I need to ask you all for a show of hands. How many people in this room have a device which plays MP3 or MP4 files? Come on, a show of hands. You must all listen to digital music. Well, you'll be very interested to know that my next guest, Professor Dr. Holger Kohl, is a professor for sustainable corporate management at the Technical University of Berlin and director of the Division of Corporate Management at the Fraunhofer Institute for Production Systems and Design Technology in Berlin. And he was telling us earlier on that it's actually the Fraunhofer Institute that developed the MP3, MP4 technology, which is now commonplace around the world. So they're obviously very good at keeping that a secret, but that's obviously been a world-changing technology in recent years. He has studied business engineering at the Technical University of Berlin and at the Haas School of Business at the University of California, Berkeley. In 1999, Professor Kohl joined the Division Corporate Management at Fraunhofer as a senior researcher, and since then he has initiated and conducted several national and international knowledge management, intellectual capital, benchmarking and business process re-engineering projects, and was responsible for their realization. Beside projects all over Europe, Professor Kohl has managed large-scale projects in Brazil, in Indonesia, Vietnam, here in Malaysia, the UAE, Egypt, and China. His primary research interests are in the area of sustainable manufacturing, intellectual capital statements and benchmarking in both the public and the private sector, as well as in the industry and service sector. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Dr. Holger Kohl. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Lancaster. Mark is the Group Chief Executive Officer of Tune Hotels, which is, of course, part of the Tune Group, which was founded by Tan Sri Tony Fernandez. Mark came into the business, the Tune Hotels business, having had a successful career, actually in the music industry with Warner Music Group, where I believe you actually worked with Tony Fernandez at that time. And he held senior roles throughout Asia. His experience includes managing companies from startups through to established businesses across Asia and China. In the Apprentice Asia, which I'm sure many of you follow, Tony, along with Kathleen Tyne, acts as an advisor to Tony Fernandez. And I think it's pretty true to say that Tony and Mark have been lifelong friends, as well as very successful business associates and partner entrepreneurs in your businesses. As Group CEO of Tune Hotels, Mark has responsibility for currently over 30 award-winning hotels across Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia, India, Japan, United Kingdom, and soon Australia. And that's obviously a significant responsibility, and we'll be talking to Mark later on around the sustainability issues arising from running something like an international hotel chain. It says here in the biography, and this is very important, it certainly appeals to me, it says that Mark is totally committed to the mission statement of Tune Hotels in promising a great night's sleep, enjoying a fantastic hot power shower in the morning, and ensuring a clean and secure environment to all hotel guests. I can second that. What a terrific mission statement. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Lancaster. Now, I've been very rude in leaving the lady to last on this occasion, but actually there's a method to my madness because, ladies and gentlemen, Runo Okiyama is a very impressive individual. I had the pleasure of meeting her briefly yesterday for the first time and reading her story and the projects that she's involved in. And actually, we're going to be opening the session with Runo in a few moments. But let me give you a little bit of background to her. Runo is a Nigerian-American designer, social entrepreneur, and architectural educator. After earning her master's in architecture degree from MIT in 2011, she became an assistant professor at Hampton University. She co-founded Mahabara. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Very good. Excellent. I'm pleased about that. She co-founded Mabara in 2010, and this is a social enterprise. It's a social enterprise focusing on growing a youth culture of agro-innovation in sub-Saharan Africa. She is originally from Nigeria's Niger Delta region. She witnessed the intergenerational poverty of agro-based livelihoods stifled by 50 years of oil pollution. And I think many of us are probably aware of some of the damage, huge environmental damage that has been unfortunately achieved by the oil industry in some of those regions. She has a focus on designing sustainable solutions for her community. She's focused on her graduate research at MIT on designing sustainable ecosystems for socio-economic development in marginalized communities. And it's really culminated in her most notable work, namely her thesis entitled Mabara, Catalyzing Change in Nigeria's Niger Delta. She's partnered with co-founders Elisha Goodman at MIT and later Timo Lasak. She grew the thesis into this startup activity called Mabara. They equip African youth with entrepreneurial skills, knowledge and technology to convert kitchen waste. Now think about this, converting kitchen waste into food through low-tech and locally sourced aquaponics technology, growing fish and vegetables symbiotically. A very impressive project indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, Runo Okiyama.
All right. Hello, hello. Okay, I'm only standing up because I believe our previous speaker mentioned my innovative attire. Am I mistaken? No, I'm not mistaken. So what we have here, before I go into my spiel, is we have a Nigerian attire. I just wanted to show this off today. And then, of course, our Western suit on top. So I am honored to be here and to share that with you. Okay, so as our moderator did say, my name is Agana Runo Okiyama. That's the full name. And Agana Runo means God has done it. So I'm, as he said, from the Niger Delta of Nigeria. And I would like to say that it's been a long journey coming from where I am to this place today. Not necessarily the 21 hours flight from Houston here, but really the mindset change from being someone from the Niger Delta of Nigeria to being someone that went to MIT, won competitions, won funds, started companies, started teaching students, and is here now talking about the process and hopefully incentivizing anyone here who knows that, you know, it's great to be in a panel with gentlemen like this, very, very decorated individuals. But some of us start from very poor backgrounds, right? And I come from Nigeria. Most of us, when I say Nigeria, you're thinking big belly and flies, the children. How many of us are thinking that? Oh, we're laughing because the laugh is the truth. That's what I used to be afraid of being associated with. I didn't want to say I'm Nigerian because you think that was my background. But that's the truth, right? That's where I'm coming from. But what I'm speaking about today is doing more with less, doing more for less. How can we do that? It's a mindset change, right? For people that have marginalized backgrounds to stop waiting for the big guys to come in and save the day, but to start thinking, you know, that 16-year-olds and 12-year-olds can start seeing challenges and say, I want to give a solution. Let me try this solution. So my story is I'm going to walk you through very briefly the thesis that I did in MIT and then how that became a business and how that business has empowered lives in Kenya and how the people we've impacted are impacting their community. And I call this under more for less because it uses much less resources, much less time, much less accolades, and in much shorter time. I can still be here, not even 30, not even close to 30 yet, accomplishing several things. Because what? Because the hunger is there, the drive is there. We are so tired of being behind. Yeah? We're so tired of being behind. So I'm going to just start very, very succinctly with the beginning. The beginning is I come from that background, and my specific challenge was the poverty mindset. How many of us have seen a challenge or like a crack in the floor and you just go around it? These are just simple things that happen in a country like mine. You see a problem, you say, oh, I wonder when the government's going to fix this. You see oil spillage, you wonder, oh, I wonder when the government's going to fix this. I wonder when Shell is going to come and wipe this up. And we've been doing that for generations. My grandfather said it. My father, when I ask him, he says, I can't wait when they do that. Everybody keeps on sitting and waiting, my goodness. You know? And now it's 2013. People are, you know, we've gone to the moon a couple times, no? And we still have oil spillages. People are waiting for change. Come on. So for me, that was my wake-up call. I had just finished undergraduate. What I haven't said here is that I'm Nigerian American, which means I'm from Nigeria. Please don't get that wrong. But my parents gave birth to me in the US while they were in college. So I sort of had that duality, and I'd previously hidden that part of my background, that I was Nigerian and I wanted to be American, right? Oh, so much more pride. Check out the stats that Maurice Suke showed us before. The US is profound. I want to be associated with that. Go USA, yeah? But no, after I finished undergrad, I realized more and more with that kind of name. How many of you heard my name? Ogene Runo, 15 letters? I'm not really that American, right? Americans don't have names like that. I started realizing that I needed to find other ways to add value to my community, to Nigeria, and that was when I pushed past doing architecture and being the top of my class in Texas in my university there, and decided I'm going to go to a place where I can be equipped to challenge and make solutions, to be a solution maker. I went to MIT on a free scholarship, essentially, because I said in my essay, I'm going to go and address this issue, and if you want to be the brand to support me, that's great. That pitch, ladies and gentlemen, got me into 11 Ivy League schools. Believe it or not, they all thought, okay, this girl seems like she knows what she's saying. And I did. I went in. By the time I finished at MIT, I had won most of the awards for anyone in the School of Architecture and Planning. I won awards in most interdisciplinary thesis, the Muhammad Yunus Challenge for innovating agricultural to improve agricultural livelihoods, just several other awards, because the concept that I'm going to talk about very briefly has to do with not just agro-innovation, but also economic development, and also microfinance and all micro-franchising, thinking of ways to help people at the bottom of the pyramid who had my previous poverty mentality of, when are they going to come and fix this? Now saying, I'm going to fix this. And teaching people that are even younger than myself, I'm going to be a change maker. I'm going to be a solution giver. So fast forward now to finishing at MIT, moved on to taking this technology, which is aquaponics, which I don't have slides, but I will show you this very briefly. How many of you can see this box? How many of you can see that image? I don't know. Yes? Can you see the image at the back? Yes. So what you see here is sort of vertical farms made out of local material in Nigeria. Who can guess what this local material is? It's all wooden looking. It's actually canoes. So what I did in my graduate work was to start going back to communities that were like mine. I went back to my community and said, what are the assets that we have? I know there's a lot that we're ashamed of, but what do we have that we're proud of? We have canoes, we have canoe craftsmen, we have a lot of rainwater. How do we merge all of that, synthesize it together to create something innovative? Aquaponics, which is the other technology I got acquainted with at MIT, is a simple technology that takes fish waste, literally fish waste, and by fish waste, that's fish poop, yeah? Fish poop, just so that you're clear. In the liquid, that liquid waste is now cycled to the plants, and the plants do what? They absorb the nutrients, and then they send clean water back to the fish. It's a closed-loop cycle. It's very small. It can be very small. It can be very large. It's a scalable technology. What we do is we make it culturally appropriate to different locations that have a background in fishing and farming. People like myself, coming from backgrounds that don't have the luxury of high tech, they just have that agriculture. We want to make them into knowledge farmers, right? It's the next step. Next step instead of trying to push in something a little too foreign. And so then, as the moderator did say, in 2010, I started a company. With the funds that we won from MIT, we won the Innovation Challenge. I started the company with my co-founder, who's also from MIT, a D-Lab lecturer, and also a professor at the Harvard Kennedy School, Callistus Juma. We all together formed a team. It's all about innovation in Africa. We took our funds, went to Lenya, Kenya. Lenya is it's a rural community right next to Lake Victoria. They're also suffering impoverished conditions. People, the young people, you have a lot of HIV/AIDS orphans and a lot of people that eat only a meal a day. So we go there, we place this technology, and we don't just drop it there. We work with the existing infrastructure. What's existing is the schools. So we partner with the schools. We partner with students that are in eighth grade. We got 8th graders, about 13 years old, and they are doing aquaponics. This is pretty advanced stuff. If you think about what they're building it, they're monitoring it, they are growing fish. Then you know what they do? They go back home and teach their parents how to do it, right? Because this is how you grow change upwards. We're not going to the parents, because some of them are a little cynical at this point, but we go to the future leaders, we grow the change that way up. And now the idea is young people come to us and they start co-creating with us. And they say, okay, how can we scale this up? How are we going to do the value chain enhancement? And these are 8th graders. Why? Because they're so hungry for change, they're so tired of waiting. And even though change doesn't look like what they thought, right? Change looks like one of them. That's That's actually rather inspiring. And that's how I believe we've accomplished much more with less. Why? Because they're hungry for it, right? So they come in halfway. When I say they're hungry for it, with our technology that I developed, some at MIT, some at UMass Amherst with some partners, the community that we deployed in, after we left, after they had understood, the students had understood, we trained 23 students. They understood the process. After my team and I left, they re-engineered the process. Why? Because they understood that some of the materials that were all locally sourced that we used, they found better ones because they raised more money by themselves and bought more bitter barrels. And now they're growing their own fish. And for me, that's very exciting because it's not just, dropping a solution. You've heard the story, teach a man to fish and he'll feed himself for life, right? Or give a man a fish and he feeds himself for a day. In our case, it's more of teach a man to fish, lend him the rod, lend him a fishing buddy, lend him a tackle, and then let him, provide everything that's needed for that to occur. In our case, we also did feed them too, because they're young children. And then we look to see what the future looks like. For me, I'm very excited because my whole goal has been, how can I get people to move from a poverty mentality much earlier than I did, right? It's taking me too long. I'm encouraged here in Malaysia. I've seen young people, 16 years old, co-founders already trying to solve challenges, trying to solve problems. That's very, very exciting. So I want to just say, for my first visit to Malaysia, I've been very, very impressed with the level of innovation and the ideas to start at a younger age, because that's what the future can look like. At least for someone like me coming from Africa, tired of being at the bottom, we need to wake up. And it's not just people in Africa, a lot of rural communities, marginalized communities, people need to wake up. How? Question is how? Well, there's hands-on problem-solving technology, which is what my company now, Mabara, deploys in third world countries, and we start at the bottom of the pyramid, partnering with schools, and then growing it through the children to the parents. And now they have a way of growing food despite whatever kind of environmental challenges they're facing, be it water pollution, poor water supply, what have you. Those are the places that we typically deploy. So I'd like to just end at this point and say thank you so much. It's been an honor talking, and I hope we have a few more questions in a couple moments. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed, Bruno. That's, your passion for what you're doing is very clear. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, that's probably one of the most important attributes I find around innovation, is you have to actually care to want to do it. It's not something that happens on its own. You have to have someone driving it. Runa, before I move on to Mark Lancaster, if I can just maybe ask you one question. Just as you've raised so many points there. So yesterday morning at the opening ceremony, we had Dato Dr. Ibon Ibim, who's the Minister of Sport, Technology and Innovation here, talking about the importance of innovation. And he made the comment that one of the things we need to learn to do is to take technology in one area and learn to apply it in another, which is very much what you've done. And he talked about the importance of having solutions that are adaptable, adjustable, and applicable in other environments. That's exactly what you've done. So the innovation has come from taking knowledge and applying it in something, as you said, so simple, but yet it has a profound impact on your community.
Right. I want to just add on to what you're saying is, we had previously discussed that there's almost nothing new under the sun, right? The idea is, how do we start to synthesize and synergize those things together to create adaptive innovation? That means I'm not going to just drop, in terms of parachute, dropping one technology from Nigeria, drop it in Kenya, drop it in Malaysia, drop it. No, we don't do that. Essentially, the DNA is the same. Aquaponics is a simple technology. I talked to you very briefly about what that cycle looks like. But every single time we deploy it, actually, in fact, this is one example. This is what one of my models looks like. I have 3 of them here. I kind of travel with them. These are my little friends. This technology, based on the local assets, can be revamped, can be retweaked, right, for any particular case. And so, for me, I think as long as one is tenacious, one is willing to listen to the community you're involved in, and one is also willing to collaborate kind of, rapidly, because you can't do this alone. This idea of coming together, synthesizing, synergizing is really it's not like sort of the utmost expression of innovation, but it's how you grow it. I think for me that's so important. How do you grow it? How do you grow it quicker? How do you grow it using less resources, less time, less money? because there are not so many people that are like me, and there should be so many more. Like I said, it's 2013, right? We should be so much more advanced than where we are, at least in my communities, in Nigeria, in Kenya, in Africa in general. But I would expand that to just marginalized communities as a whole, rural communities. We can do so much better, and we can go so much farther if we know how to teach it at a grassroots level. And that's where I am, and that's why I'm sort of sticking with aquaponics technology. For me, it's a great way to do it hands-on. Students have to learn. They have to learn the nitrogen cycle. They have to understand it. They have to learn some economics. They have to learn some accounting. They have to keep track of everything, right? This is a great way to start it at the bottom of the pyramid so that young people don't end up growing up and then realizing, oh, I have to take responsibility now. How am I going to handle this responsibility? They're used to responsibility since the 8th grade. They are used to seeing a challenge, addressing it. Why? If they don't, their fish die. Their livelihood dies. They don't want that. So they're hungry for the answer. They're hungry. You know, every Monday I have to call and find out how the fish are doing. But the students run it practically, you know. And I think for me, in a society where it's not everybody has the luxury of just waking up and feeling entitled to be a change maker, when you have to grow it. This is something that I still struggle with. I still have to renew my mind that, okay, no, I'm not going to sit back, relax. Even with this outfit, believe it or not, this I had to think, oh, I want to wear my Nigerian outfit. I have to wear this today. But, formal attire. Then I do what? I mix the two. This happened in the morning, right? That's innovation. That's as far as I can, that's for me, innovation for me. So I'm excited to say that this is one way, one surefire way of growing it for those of us that have not had that background or felt the entitlement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reno. Ladies and gentlemen. Now, I mean, we have a real change of pace here in terms of the challenge. So we've just heard all about Reno's project, community project in sub-Saharan Africa with young people. Now we're moving into the fast lane of international hotel chains, Tune Hotels. And I say the fast lane because, I mean, I've been an international business traveler for 30 years in the Formula One industry, stayed in probably thousands of hotels. And Mark Lancaster, your business is, obviously you're trying to run a successful, profitable, growing business, but a sustainable business, and presumably from an environmental point of view, that's an extremely important criteria for you to look after.
Yes, it is. And if I could sort of go straight into it, I feel duty-bound to stand up now since Runa did. So I'm just going to walk around and have a little bit of a chat. But first of all, thank you very much for having me here today. Innovation, more for less. Perfect for everything that we do in the Tune Group. And I'm going to spend the next sort of 15, maybe a little bit longer, Mark. You're going to have to fire me when if I go over. But technically speaking, I'm going to tell you a story of how we really began. I have a lot of reporters, I have a lot of media all over the world when we actually open new hotels who ask me, why? Why on earth did you guys do this? So let's go back. When AirAsia first began, it was a two-plane outfit. Tony occasionally, once a month, would jump on a plane, walk up and down and have a chat to everybody. This is in the early days, probably going back to about 99, 2000. And one of the really interesting things was, one of the guests, or the passengers on the plane, actually said to him, he was pure old Tony Fernandez, no Dato Sri, no Tan Sri by that time. Tony, thank you very much for allowing us all to be able to fly, but by the time I get to a destination, and I think that gentleman and his family were going to Jakarta or somewhere, they said, hotels are really quite expensive, you know. So that was something that Tony filed. Now, I come from the music industry. I was basically CEO of Asia, based out in Hong Kong, for a company by the name of the Warner Music Group. And I knew Asia very well. Part of my role was to integrate, mix, and quite honestly, look after the assets which we had. And the assets we had then were our music artists. And music artists are really the brains behind what record companies finally end up selling. So when you're traveling around with some of the top music artists in the world, including Asia, you're staying in really nice hotels. You know, you're staying in the 5-star super luxury hotels. But you suddenly realize that you're really only spending sleep time, because you were out the whole time at the concert with them, having dinner afterwards, and you're really only coming back to fundamentally sleep. So the $300-400 US that you were spending for that particular room actually didn't make a hell of a lot of sense. That was one thing that I actually was thinking about for a long, long time. Then Tony sort of called me up one day and said, Mark, I'm really busy with AirAsia. I'm trying to grow into Thailand. I'm getting into Indonesia and really sort of making sure that everybody could fly. He said, I've got an idea. Hotels. On the same basis that we do the AirAsia business. In other words, book online, book early, in advance, you get great rates. I think one of the great things we do within the overall Tune Group is we're very, very good at taking existing product services and business models and really sort of disassembling them, taking them to pieces like you would disassemble an engine, look at all the cost aspects in there, challenge it, do research, and then figure out ways how we can put it together again and actually allow people to do more for less. So one of the things that we found in the hotel business was approximately 60% of the operating costs of a hotel came from energy. And by energy, what I mean is principally electricity, air conditioning. You walk into a fantastic, nice five-star hotel, the lobby is nice and cool, big areas, takes a huge amount of electricity to power that. And the electricity, the air conditioning is on for 24 hours in most cases. In the room, freezing. A lot of people are trying to adjust it, how do I switch it off? But air conditioning, big, big cost. Then at the same point in time, look at all the other parts of the energy. Has anyone gone down to the basement of a five-star hotel and looked at their laundry machines? These things look like they're tunneling machines. They're huge. They're like an entire railway carriage. Huge, huge things. And the amount of energy that is required to actually power those, to provide people with, clean laundered sheets on a daily basis, and towels and bath towels and stuff like that. Not only that, there is a huge amount of effluent. Imagine that, thousands of people having their laundry done, having their shirts washed, underwear, dare I say it, so on and so forth. And all that's somehow or other getting into our rivers and streams around the world, putting pressure on the whole aspect of sustainability and taking out all the effluent. So we looked at that and we said, hang on, this is something that we can actually help people with. And how do we go about that? We then very quickly sort of went into, okay, if we're a budget hotel chain. Let's face it, that's what we do best. We like to actually serve the mass market. And the mass market is probably the largest market around, full stop, on a global basis. You look at every single low-cost carrier. Most low-cost carriers have really changed the face of travel and experiences for origins and destinations all over the world. So that was something that we wanted to make sure we could handle. So we went in and asked a target market. And we thought, who's our first target market for this? Well, it's going to be people who are worried about cost. And they want to be cost efficient. So we said, okay, well, let's actually go and ask AirAsia travelers. And we asked about 1,000 people and said, the question we asked was, for less than 100 ringgit, this is back in 2006, for less than 100 ringgit, which is about $30, what are the most important things to you? List us your top 5 most important needs. Really interesting. Everybody came back. They provided a whole bunch of ideas. But there were 5 key things that really stood out to us. And the 5 key things were great night's sleep. Makes sense. Take a hotel room. Key thing is you want to be able to sleep very well. So our focus on that was we want to make sure we have great beds. Great beds, great sheets, and you can actually sleep very, very well on great beds, great mattresses, great divans, great sheets, and of course really nice comfortable pillows as well. Number 2, great power shower. Hot, powerful showers. Everyone is saying, what I don't want is, if I'm paying less than 100 ringgit, I don't want to actually sort of have it dribbling out of the shower and it's not hot. I've got to wait until it actually gets from cold to warm, and in our case, hot. So we said, okay, another thing, we've got to make sure that we make sure hot water comes along very quickly, and we'll have to work out technology which allows that to happen. The third thing is great central locations. And I can understand that. You know, a lot of times when you talk about the concept of budget or economy hotels, sometimes they're parked in C-grade locations, you know, on a back road somewhere, dark, dingy, so on and so forth. But we made sure that, okay, we need to make sure central locations, which means a little more capital to spend, but we were still trying to build out the whole business model. Then it came to cleanliness. And again, remember, if you're talking about $30 or 100 ringgit in your mind, a lot of the time you will think of, oh, it's going to be in the backside of Chowkit somewhere, or it's going to be in some place in Kulim, which is going to be a back road, dark, dingy. The color of the light is probably red. You had a lot of bad sort of ideas immediately when you talk about budget economy hotels. Cleanliness, sheets, the cleanliness of the environment. You've got to make sure that was very, very important to people as well. And finally, price. People were saying, $30 less than 100 ringgit is great. Can we actually make it cheaper? One thing that came out really interestingly as well, which is actually probably the sixth point, was security. And we found that a lot of women were beginning to travel, and travel with like-minded friends. A lot of them were deciding that, hey, they wanted to have the experience of travel, but they wanted to be safe, and they didn't want to be in a hotel which was in a dodgy location, wherever it was in the world. So security, as well as simply being able to have a private safe where you can keep your valuables, your laptop, jewelry, cash, so on and so forth. So we took these 5, 6 things and basically said, this is going to be core in terms of our overall business model, and how do we attack that cost of energy? So in a sense, everything that we've done from Tune Hotels since 2006, when we first came up with the idea, in 2007 we opened our first hotel in downtown KL around the corner, has really been designed by our guests, not by us. When people have said, oh, you know, you've come up with a great idea, so on and so forth, it really has been crowdsourced together. And sometimes they say the best businesses are the businesses that actually provide the right kind of needs to their target market. And we've done precisely that. We've added a bit more as we've gone forward. Let me give you an example. We didn't have televisions when we first started, principally because nobody put that on their list of a must-have. What's happened now is people have come back and said, well, we'd like television, Mark. We totally understand the business model, and I'll talk a bit more about that. But if we do want to use a television, have it there and charge us for it. And again, this was coming from our guests, people who are staying with us and adopting our overall business model. Coming back to the business model. What we said then, the most important thing for people, great bed, great hot power shower, great location, good security, clean environment, everything works together. What we wanted to do was make sure that we provided that first of all. And the biggest cost, which is really all the stuff surrounding energy, which somewhere along the line is normally charged into your room rate in a 3, 4, 5-star hotel, we asked people, help us to save money, save operating costs. Help us to save that money and we'll give it back to you in terms of the room rate. All we ask in return is, if you do want to use it, there's a small charge, which think of it as your own contribution to carbon credits. And you can still have a great location, a great holiday wherever you are, whether you're in business, leisure, so on and so forth. So we started that in just before the global financial crisis. Lehman's happened towards the latter end of the year. But we started business in May 2007, downtown KL. We went out with $3, 9 ringgit 99 cent room rates, and that went ballistic. So from the one in downtown KL, using this whole model of giving more for less and asking people to help us, to help them in terms of identifying costs and allowing them to really travel more and enjoy more travel experiences and see more of the world, we are now, today, 38 hotels in 8 countries. We have about 75 to 80 hotels in development, which will take us finally by end of 2015 into about 15 countries. And I'm really, really pleased to say, and I was just actually sharing with Runo, is three Wednesdays ago, we started piling in Kenya, in Nairobi, Kenya. So from really the seed of an idea in terms of how do we actually, first of all, create a product, a good and service, which is crowdsourced in terms of the ideas and adoption from basically our guests at the end of the day, being sustainable and allowing people to be green. Oftentimes people are saying, you're right, you're actually dragging me, a lot of the times, kicking and screaming into being sustainable and green. Our carbon footprint right now, on a per hotel basis, our energy costs on a per hotel basis, anywhere in the world, is probably about a third of that of any comparable hotel. And all we do is we take those savings, give them back to our guests, improve the product. We're continually learning as we move forward because each country has a different need. But innovation, sustainability really does allow more for less. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mark. And Mark, if I could just ask you, so when I go and stay in the hotel, I quite often will see the signs about if you leave your towel in the bath, it means you want to have it laundered. If you hang it up, those are the kind of practical things that you do through your hotels, where you're giving your customers the options of how they can contribute to the sustainability factor.
We do that all up front. So technically speaking, when you book a room, within the booking engine, it'll say, do you need towels and amenities? And the real fact of the matter is there's a lot of people who will travel around with their own preferred shower gel, their own preferred shampoo. Remember the wastage in that in terms of bottles, costs, so on and so forth. Sheets, towels, air conditioning, so on and so forth. The fact of the matter is, what we've always said is we want people to enjoy their stay and feel comfortable with us. Yeah. In the comfort of your own home, which normally 99% of the people will say, I'm the most comfortable in my own home. How often do you change your bed sheets? Every day? How often do you change your bath towels? Every day? Things like this, which is all we're saying is, let's think about it a little. We'll give you great rates. We'll allow you to travel all over the world, certainly in the current 8 countries we're in, more as we go forward. And it's all about the experiences. The experiences are outside of the hotel. We want to be part of powering the great experiences, the dreams of people. You've heard Tony talk about dreams. A lot of people come up to me and say, hey, when are you actually going to be opening in the Middle East, as a typical example? My dream is I need to get into Mecca. We're working on that. We want to actually allow people to have their dreams, and we'll play our small part in making sure that that is more affordable. You can do far much more outside of the hotel itself.
Okay, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Lancaster. Now, turning to Professor Dr. Holger Kohl. Dr. Kohl, during my introduction, we talked about the Fraunhofer Institute. Maybe you could give us an overview, first of all, of the Institute. I think I mentioned the MP3, MP4, so it's worth giving an overview of that. And I mean, clearly, sustainability and in your case, sustainable manufacturing, absolutely core activities for you to be focused on. So give us your overview from your point of view and within the Fraunhofer Institute around this topic.
Great, thanks Mr. Gallagher. I also brought some slides with me on the topic of sustainable manufacturing, but I would like to start first to introduce the organization I'm working for, because I was asked to do this. So Fraunhofer is the leading applied research organization in Europe. We are having about 22,000 employees located in 66 research institutes all over Germany, and we do have an annual research budget of about 2.2 billion euros, of which 2/3 is contract research. That means we are something like the backbone in terms of R&D services, mainly for the German industry, but also for industries outside of Germany. So we are quite active in Southeast Asia, but also South America and many, many other parts of the world. Because one very specific technology, MP3 was just mentioned, we're developing about 500 patents per year, but not all patents are as successful as MP3. And to be very frank, a lot of patents we need to apply mainly to secure future markets, but we are not making profits out of those patents. It's rather to for sure save projects with customers in the future. A topic we are following upon since a couple of years is in particular the increase of resource productivity. And we heard this morning when we listened to the presentation from our colleague in Japan that there are, for instance, certain demographic effects taking place in the world. So we know that birth rates in Europe are quite little. Birth rates in Southeast Asia, in Africa, South America are quite high. And very often their birth rates, and with this also the demographic effect, and in particular the growth of population, is related to quality of life. And not how to fight the population growth, but maybe how to allow that the lower class on the world is able to enter a middle class level in terms of consumption. I would like to introduce some ideas what we are working on in Berlin in a global project called Global Sustainable Manufacturing. So therefore, maybe back to a few slides. So the first one, just as a teaser, if this works. Okay. So here you see the nation sizes related to different indicators. So on the bottom right, you see the nation sizes to GDP ratio in US dollars. So you see Africa, South America, and some parts of Southeast Asia in particular are relatively small compared to Western Europe, compared to the US, and for instance, Japan. That means the GDP is not fairly distributed around the world. I think this is not something new. We all know this. When it comes to the nation sizes to the greenhouse gas emission, it's nearly the same. So there's a very strong correlation between GDP and between greenhouse gas emission. Also, you see the very strong contributors to greenhouse gas emission are Japan, Western Europe, and the United States. But when we have a look at the nation sizes to the population ratio, we see that it's vice versa. That means the saturated markets possess very small birth rates. So in Germany, for instance, we're having a birth rate of about 1.1 per family, which is really quite little. In Africa, in Southeast Asia, South America, we see birth rates higher than 2 and partly even higher than 3. And now we have to think how to feed this growing population. Today, we have a global population of about 5 billion people. 2050, it will be about 7 billion people. And we all know that, also we heard this morning, the development of the BRIC countries, in particular Brazil, Russia, India and China, but also South America and Indonesia are counted to those BRIC countries. We see that the lower class, the poorer people, are now more and more entering a middle class level, and they want to buy products. They want to buy products, they want to enjoy services, and also they need to get access to different food. And here you see a slide where I want to show on the x-axis the quality of life, and on the y-axis the consumption of resources. If the whole world at the moment would live like people in Europe, in the United States, maybe in the Middle East or some parts in Asia, then we would need 3 Earths to provide enough resources for them. And we all know that this is not possible. But for having a very fair distribution all around the world in terms of product and services, we need to increase the productivity of resources. That means the path from the emerging countries, from the bottom left, up to the quality of life standard of the industrialized countries is impossible. That means due to current manufacturing and also to current consumption paradigms, we cannot fulfill that way. That means we have to, for sure, improve the quality of life by a lower resource consumption. But how can we achieve this? This can only be achieved if we increase the productivity of resources. And when we speak about product development, when we speak about innovation, for sure, local sourcing, as it was mentioned in some of the speeches before, is a very important factor. But we need to think about to develop products and services which are following very clear cradle-to-cradle mechanisms. And each innovator needs to think about what would happen with a product after its consumption. And here are different ways we could follow up upon. The ways are remanufacturing, reuse, recycling. And to be very frank, in the Western countries, we don't think about that so much at the moment. But when we know that the hungry markets in South America, in Southeast Asia, in Africa are waiting for products and services, we really need to think about how to develop new manufacturing approaches for energy savings, for material savings, and at the end, for overall less resource consumption. And therefore, this is one of the biggest research questions we are working on at the moment in a global research program called Sustainable Manufacturing. That means how can we bridge the gap between the less than 1 billion people in the saturated market to the more than 5 billion people in the hungry markets. Also in the Japanese presentation this morning, we heard that more and more people are moving to the big cities, to the metropoles. You know, Jakarta, a city of officially 14 but unofficially more than 20 million people. If you look at Shanghai, looking at Beijing, it's very difficult to handle, let's say, the provision of products for all the people living in such big cities, and also to provide jobs. How can you provide jobs for 20 million people in Jakarta when most of the manufacturing is taking place outside of the city? The result would be that you have to move, for instance, 10 million people every day from the point where they live to the place where they work. What happened at the end? Traffic jam. And this, at the end, decreases the productivity of a country. Therefore, new paradigms of manufacturing within the cities will come up in the next 5 or 10 years. Even agriculture. Agriculture within the city, maybe on the rooftops or wherever, in greenhouses attached to buildings and so on. And another very important topic, I think, which I would like to give to the, in particular, young innovators, is a change from the product consumption to a future, let's call it a future use, which is called product as a service. If we see the TV sets here in front of the podium, what do we actually want to have at home when we are watching TV? Do we want to own a TV set? No. We want to watch TV. So why do we buy a TV set? Just because no one at the moment is offering a service of watching TV. Car sharing models we find in Europe. Is it important for us to own a car? Or is it important to us to be more mobile? That means the future will also bring more and more services to the customers where they don't need to buy a product, they just buy a service, and a product service provider is bringing a specific, let's call it a specific tool to the customer for a permanent usage. And it's also replaced, it's maintained, and so on and so forth. Therefore, there is a paradigm called integrated product service systems. We don't buy a product in the future anymore, but we will buy a service. And then the organization which is bringing the service to the customer will take care about remanufacturing the products, a reuse of products, or even a recycling. With this, I would like to stop my little input for this plenary discussion, and I would just like to again emphasize that the productivity of resources is one of the most important issues to allow the lower class and the increasing global population to have access to higher quality of life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Holger. So let me ask you a question, just leading on from your points. You've dealt with some very big topics there. I mean, this is big picture thinking, which is very much what this conference is about. So let me ask you a question of you personally, because you have been absorbed in this discussion in your career. Do you feel, on the basis of what you have seen and what you know, do you feel optimistic that humanity can address these challenges? Do you feel optimistic, or do you feel pessimistic because of the, let's say, the political vested interests that you have also encountered? Because, of course, that really can impede innovation of the kind that we're talking about.
So I would call it semi-optimistic.
Okay.
And the reason is that such decisions at the end to change to higher resource productivity needs to be driven by the customers. If energy and if resource costs are still that low as they are at the moment, and partly even decreasing, there is no pressure on the industry to change and to follow, let's say, future-oriented paradigms in terms of resource consumption. But there are some very exciting movements also in the United States. There is a new certification which is called Cradle to Cradle, and if customers would follow such products which are certified by Cradle to Cradle paradigms, I think more pressure will be put on the industry to change the attitude. They will not change by themselves, but if the customer will focus more and more on lower resource consumption, I think I would be even more optimistic.
So actually there's a common thread here from the three presentations we've had so far. It's demand. It's customer demand. Runo, your community are demanding these solutions. They need them for their lives. Mark, your customers, you ask them, what do you want? And the demand is then driving the service that you offer in a sustainable, low-cost. It's a low-cost fashion, and let's be clear, there's a hard business at the core of what you do, but you've taken a holistic view. And then Holger, absolutely. So it's demand is a key thing, which means education of the customers is, of course, a vital quality. So thank you very much. Now, turning to Dr. Rashid Aleem, thank you very much, and thank you for being patient. First of all, thank you for being patient and waiting for us to come round to you. So I've spent quite a lot of time in the UAE in recent years. Obviously, we have the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which I've been going to for the last number of years, and increasingly spending a lot of time in Dubai and Sharjah with multinational corporations. So a very dynamic, very vibrant economy that you come from, a very famous economy now in terms of the Gulf region, and yet you are a champion of green and environmental strategies. If I may say, this seems different from the outside perception of the UAE. So how have you been able to take those challenges on, and what has your approach been?
I want to speak before having a big hand from the audience. I need to be inspired. I'm the last speaker, guys. Come on. Thank you. Can I use the podium over there? Or
yeah, you can use the podium, or you can use a microphone.
Can you hear me? I'll give you a kiss. How about that? We start with the morning kiss. My Arabic kiss says, keep it simple, short, sweet, because you're the last speaker. If you don't like my presentation, and then you can keep it simple, stupid, right? So you decide for me later, all right? So I'm going to give you this kiss. Go ahead, please. We all here gathering for one hope, right? The future we desire is not the future we deserve, right? And look, oh boy, look at this guy here. I've got a message for you here. It says that in the coming 5 years, a lot of talk will be about less for more. So you pay less, but you're expecting more. And that could really go beyond. So it's unless we find sustainable and usable, applicable solution, we'll be really faced with the challenges of survival. So we have to focus on strategies where it could really bring a lot of business with a little resources, if you would. So before the meltdown period, before the 2008, if you would, The economy was growing, too much jobs, everybody was happy, the dollar was knocking each one's door, right? So we never thought that this will be an end. But, oh boy, what happened? There's something weird happened. 2008, the global credit crunch, and really made everyone think totally different. It took us all to a totally new paradigm, a new area of business, a new thinking process. So we all had to rethink and rework our work. And that was the challenge, which is still being a challenge for not only the companies, but most of the countries around the globe. So from the Wall Street to Main Street, we were just thrown like that. Right? And unfortunately, we came up with a very sick economy. At the moment, they say there are about 5 billion people. 5 billion people, they live in less than $2 a day. And they think that they're still living that 1929 Great Depression. Right? There's something wrong. Please go out. Is this counted as my timing? All right. By the time, anyone know this gentleman here, right here? Yeah, you know him? He's the former president of India. He has written a book called Target 3 Billion. When he started writing the book, there were about 3 billion people needing the help, needing sustainable solution, innovation. But unfortunately, by the time he's done with the book, the number has reached 4 billion, that fast. I had the privilege of meeting this gentleman. This is a 4 days picture, by the way. He was in Sharjah. I had the chance to meet with him. Please do focus on the picture, not the lovely lady at the back of the picture. Right? So just look at me. So then people started to go back to the R&D now. So there was a big talk about R&D. Does anyone here know what's R&D here is all about? What is it? No. Recession, depression. You know, if anyone asks you what is the difference between recession and depression, you don't need to be economist to answer the question. Recession, if your neighbor loses his job. Depression, if you lose your job. And that is the difference between the two. So don't be economist to answer the questions. So we had the G20. They came and they say, we'll give you prosperity, we'll give you a good future. Just give us a hand. I don't know if we still have a hope. I don't know where those guys gone. Most of them, they left what they got the term. They're back home now. Then we have the Plus 20, Rio, after 20 years. They assembled together more than, again, 200 leaders and business leaders. They assembled in Brazil. And they say we have our building our common future, but with a failure, unfortunately. I've loved the British. They have a saying, says, can I read it from here? The past is a foreign country. They do something totally different. I love that saying, yes, really. So I put it here. So we don't want to live in the past. The past is history. The future is mystery. So we need to live in the present. We need to build in the present. So everyone was searching for sustainable solutions, right? And one of the areas I would say and love to, my colleagues here in the panels, they spoke about the co-creation. So what is co-creation? Co-creation are the brand names or the brand companies. They're very good in using this co-creation whenever difficulties arise. So what do we mean by co-creation is a management term. It says that the ability of you to get the other's brain to think with you in the same direction. You get your employees, your manager, your service provider, you get your customers to think in the same direction, so you have a better result. And this is what co-creation is all about. And one of the good companies, I'm sure, how many of you have the chance to have a coffee with the Starbucks here? Hands up? No? Come on, I didn't believe you. Anyway, 2007, Starbucks company was about, how much? 10 billion? Right? 10 billion worth, right? With serving 50 million customers a week, right? Could you imagine that? With about 10,500 outlets in the US alone, and about 4,500 around the globe. What happened? Too much coffee competition. We had a similar coffee being offered by others. And then we have coffee shops who are operating 24 hours, right? So Starbucks manager, or the chief executive, Howard, he said, we lost the soul of the past. There was a big memo written to all his employees early 2008, and he's really, Starbucks lost the soul of the past. What should we do? So they came up with a very innovative idea called we need to rebirth or reinvent the customer experience with the Starbucks. And they created a website called mystarbucksidea.com. And that has a very success story because they wanted to engage the customers, day-to-day customers to their outlets to come and give them ideas. So they created this website, and look at what happened. The first year only, they had about 65,000 ideas were thrown on them, and about 658,000 votes. They were voting for those ideas. And guess what? On the first year itself, they have approved about 50 ideas, 50 ideas. And they're one of the most successful ideas so far. So they're using those ideas, right? Other is Nike, or Nike. This is one of the really co-creators, and they've done a job. Nike executives, they were going around the globe, promoting the Nike and speaking about the product. What they have found, you know, people start to love running by listening to the music. There must be a magic anyway. I still see a lot of people running with the music on, right? Might be give them more inspiration, I don't know. But this is what happened. So they came up with an innovative idea called Nike Plus. And the Nike Plus, in association with Apple, they put a sensor in your shoe somehow, and that sensor wireless will communicate a message and will tell you how much run you have done through the iPhone or iPad you used to have, and then you can go on and log it online, and it will give you, you can analyze it, you can see how much you have done run, how you can compare it, you can share it with the friends. Later on, that was not the end of the story. They wanted to have a Google also as a partner, strategic partner. So they invested with them. So they have Apple now, and they have Google also on the other side of the coin. And they said, okay, we work all three of us together to give a better solution for the customers. So you win, and I win. Three of us are winners. So they did it. So through the Google Earth, you could really Google yourself and where you could find yourself. And you put the, you know, that on the net. You go to the net, you download it, so your colleagues, your wife, your friends, everybody can relocate you where you are. And then again, they came up with this innovative ideas. And they say from the conventional way of spending on the advertisement, they were able to save about 55% because of this, because of the social media, because people, they become their word-of-mouth marketer. So it is you and I, we market on their behalf. So, and this is what they say, they were able to reduce, right, more than 55% in the conventional way, and then the risk was really minimum because they were sharing the risk with Apple and they were sharing the risk with Google. So that was a very innovative idea. This is for really more for less. More ideas, more money with less resources. If you're interested to know more, I would really advise you to go to this book. This is one of the latest releases, The Power of Co-Creation. It has a lot of interesting case studies and stories about what I've said. One of the other good reasons is, one of the other ideas is the integration system. Integration system, this is something I have, I'm proud that I have created on the 2 free zones in Sharjah, government of Sharjah owns, and this is a little bit about the 2 free zone. We were created back in 1995, and as of today, we have 12,000 companies. They represent about 147 nationalities. So tomorrow morning, if you heard anybody declaring the second United Nations, it is me. I'll be declaring the second United Nations home in Sharjah because I've got this much nationalities, where we're able to attract 40 billion investment, $40 billion investment. How we did that? We did that through integration, and this is how we grow. Actually, when we started back in, as I said, 1995, and we started about 69 companies. But somehow I decided to drop the 69 because every time I speak in conferences, I say 69, people start to laugh. I don't know, there must be a magic or a reason behind this number, so I decided to drop it. And so you people, you don't laugh means that you don't understand what 69 is all about, just like me. So thank you for not understanding. How we did that? Again, back to integration. And what I mean by integration is that we decided to have the upstream industries, the middle stream, and the downstream industries under one umbrella, under one roof. And that was not an easy thing to do because it's only by traveling around the globe and talking to the business people, business community, right, then you'll be able to know what's the integration and the importance of the integration. So just to give an example, there is a French perfume company who decided to come to Hamliya Free Zone. Why? Because we were very good in the integration. So in integration, you start, for example, the perfume cycle with the raw material. So you need to have a logistics center. You have to wear a warehousing facilities. So a company who provide the warehouse, could they lease the warehouse to them? And then you move to the design stage. And the design stage, so you need another company, designers, right? So this is how it goes. And then from the designer, you go to the bottling. There was a South Korean company who started a bottling factory because of them, because they use more than 100 million bottles a year. So they decided it's a good business for them, so they came in. And then from the business, it goes to what here? I can't read it. The screen printing. So you need to print on the bottles, right? So that's another business, another company. Then you need to pack that for corrugated cartons. So we used to put that in the cartons. So there's another company, and then you go to the logistics, and logistics goes to the customers and to the airport. So you could see more than 10 different companies working at the same time in the same direction to get you the bottle of the perfume. And that was a smart way. It wasn't something easy, but it's something. I would be telling you a secret. Please be quiet. All right? Because a lot of people, they says, Rashid, what is the ingredients of your success? Can we buy it? I said, you cannot buy it. But I'll tell you one thing today. If you need to know more, please write after this, because I'm not allowed to speak more. They tell me to shut up after a couple of minutes, so I have to. We don't have red tapes in Sharjah. We hate red tapes, but we do have something good for you guys. We have red carpet treatment, right? So we do have red carpet treatment. So you're interested to come, please do come to us. So please see different, be different, right? And in management, we call this, where is it? Please. We call this a paradigm shift in your thinking process. A paradigm shift is seeing something totally different, something is totally new, right, which will change your action and your behavior. So please do think different, see something different. It's the time to be a different. Yesterday is a history, tomorrow is a mystery, as I said earlier. And if you are interested to know more about my philosophy of integration, how we were able to get this much FDI to my country. I said FDI, not FBI, please. Don't get me wrong. FBI, they don't need any invitation. They just come to my country like that, right? We don't need to invite them. Right, so this book is going to be downloadable in 7 days from now. If you are interested it's free, totally free. You just go to this alim.com and you'll have it. With this, I can say thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What a great presentation.
Yes, sir.
So it's 11:15, and we're going to throw questions open to you, the audience. You've heard over an hour of really fascinating commentary and insight into quite different businesses and social projects, businesses, technology, and innovation. I believe there are 4 people with microphones whose job it is to sprint around the room. I don't know if they're wearing Nike shoes or not. When they sprint around the room. But if you put your hand up, and we can take questions from you. So please, any questions? There's one already here at the front of the room. So whoever's got the microphones, can they sprint? Oh, there we go. There we go. Because the microphone's at the bottom of the stairs. Okay, please ask your question.
Just my question would be to the third speaker. I really miss his name. And the question
Sir Holger, I think.
The name, please, to say it.
Holger Cole, Dr. Holger Cole.
Okay, Mr. Cole. Then my question, you said about let's say the efficiency of the use of the resources, because we have scarce resources, and as you said, we need triple of the resources to fulfill the needs of the people. And I am doing MBA, and I have a case today. I have a presentation right away after this conference, and it is about IKEA and how they go to China and how they have to adapt, though it's a global company, but they have to adapt to the need of the Chinese. So the Chinese, though it is very cheap, in Europe, which is in Sweden, and in Europe, they look at it as a cheap, a furniture company, but in China they look at it as an expensive one. So they have to actually compromise on the quality. So innovation is good, and to use the resources in an efficient way is good. But don't you think there would be you would compromise the quality? The quality is important too, and the people you are saying, you are addressing the United States and the Middle East. Actually, they are looking for equality things, and they have the right to do that. And other people, I understand what you are saying, and we have to be responsible. I understand all of that, but we have to remember and to appreciate equality too. And
okay, thank you for your question.
So, if I may ask directly, quality has different dimension. You can speak about service quality. If this, as we had heard in the example from the hotel, I think you should never do compromises, but in service quality I would rather accept it a bit more than in product quality. Because what you need to know, if you need to buy a product twice, because maybe the lifetime of the first product is only 1 or 2 years, and you have to buy the same one again, in terms of both, in terms of the price and in terms of the resource consumption, it does not make sense. I don't want to speak about the IKEA case, because I think you're totally right. IKEA is handled differently in different parts of the world. In Europe, it is a quite cheap product, but I would not say that IKEA does not provide good quality. Therefore, really don't want to discuss on that. But in Asia, IKEA is also in the Middle East. It's seen as a very high design product for reasonable prices. This is a kind of product diversification they undertook, but they don't change the product actually between Europe, Middle East or Asia. The products are always the same, just the perception by the customer is different. And that's good. We talked about some mega trends this morning also in the Japanese presentation. So we talked about globalization. We talked about the demographic effect. The demographic effect, as well maybe health issues, are handled totally different in different parts of the world. So the demographic effect is called a global megatrend, but affects regions totally different. The same is in terms of product. And therefore, I also like the presentations this morning very much, and also the case from Nigeria, that for sure, product and services needed to be adapted to local circumstances. You very rarely found products which are exactly the same all over the world, because culture plays a role, religion plays a role, gender issues are playing a role, all these different things. And I would not say that, to come back to the IKEA case, that it is a question of resource consumption. In that case, it is, again, rather the question of customers' perception.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Now, another question. I think we have a question here.
You.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much for this great opportunity. Well, firstly, my first question to the first speaker, the lady. Firstly,
Bruno.
As we know that the youth are the source of the nation and build civilization. And we have energy as we are a youth. Cannot describe that energy. And if our government omissioned this investment, and we cannot sure to achieve anything in our life. And we are a youth, we hope and dream to see the world free of poverty, employment, inequality, and exploitation of man by man. We hope to see a world full of creative challenge and opportunities to conquer them. My question is, how we can convert all that hopes to reality? And I have another question after you finish.
Okay, so
All
this
right,
is question part
I'm going
one.
to be really quick with this one. I love the sort of philosophy behind your question. You're almost a speaker yourself, so thank you for just speaking on behalf of all the young people in here. Thank you. Young people, you want to clap for him? He spoke on your behalf. All right. I will state, as still a young person, in quote, that what you're really saying is there are so many structures, that really inhibit the youth to actually use that energy that we have to really, embrace innovation. The response, and it's similar to this idea of cradle to cradle and just thinking outside the box, is right now Yes, the government does have its structures, but then there's also so many tools at your disposal. You have the globalization of the internet. You can literally, from where you are seated, you don't have to go to university, and I hate to say that, but you don't have to be in a classroom to be exposed to a wealth of ideas and solutions and challenges that you can start to practice, and then you become, as a young person, you become a warehouse of knowledge, of solutions and challenges waiting to happen. When the government does open up, change or something, you can make something happen. That's if you want to wait. For those who don't want to wait, some of people like myself, you can use some of the tools like social media. You can use some of the tools like other innovative technologies to start talking to and creating small-scale change in your backyard. Get experience making change, and maybe that will affect policy. And so I'm going to just really link this to a little bit of what the cradle-to-cradle model. And for any of you that have read, has anyone read the book Cradle to Cradle? The book by William McDonough and Michael Braungart, I will recommend that as well. It's foundationary for thinking about sustainability. So the name is Cradle to Cradle, and as a professor, I recommend it not just to architects, but actually to the university. It's entry level. Everyone needs to know how to be sustainable, how to think, how to have that paradigm shift like we heard with the last speaker. So coming back to where I was trying to specifically give you a direction is, one, you have all of those tools at your disposal, and then two, as a young person, you have the luxury of time, right? So you can spend some time learning and waiting and understanding processes and doing your own case studies for yourself before you get an MBA. You just do what you can before because you never know tomorrow. You never know where you'll be, and then you can actually begin to thrive with all that you've sort of stored within. So let's not wait for change. Let's just start to do what we can, run with it. And when people might hear what you're doing, post it online. People might give you money, might want to partner with you, and you can start something small. We have some people here, 16 years old. They've already co-founded companies addressing issues in their communities. I think that's great, and that's where we should be heading. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reno. So thank you very much for that. What is your second question, or second part to your question? Hello? What's your second question?
Yeah, sure. It's about the marketing. My second question is, as we know that creativity is coming. I mean, most of people, they have great idea, and the creativity is coming with a new idea, and innovation is to move the new idea to the marketing. Our problem is, for example, the youth with the market process. What the obstacles can we have during the process? I mean, to moving that new idea to the process, even we successful that new idea in reality.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Who is your question directed at?
Anyone. I mean, in marketing.
Okay, so maybe Mark Lancaster. So,
yes.
so when people have these ideas, I mean, how do you break down the obstacles from going from idea to reality, making things happen?
I think it's a little bit of what was mentioned earlier on is the world is becoming so flat now. When we first started, I think we were fairly lucky. We tried to actually find capital. Nobody believed in what we were doing. We went to some of the biggest developers in the world. They said, no, it'll never work. When we first started the first hotel, there were rumors going around in KL that would be bankrupt in 6 months. Real stories. So we actually said, we've got to do it ourselves and learn and make sure that it gets better. And we're learning every day currently. There are sources out there, there are people out there, there are people who want to be the platforms for change and new exciting ideas. Sometimes in Southeast Asia we have pockets of those. I know the United States and Silicon Valley has been a great mover in terms of how we can adopt and fund certain things, new ideas, particularly in businesses. But I think you've always got to, oftentimes, try it yourself. It doesn't have to be the biggest idea to go with, but try it out, adopt friends. The social media landscape today allows you to do so much. If you know of Kickstarter, which is a crowdfunding website, allows you to put up your proposal, and if you're looking for as low as $2,000 US, people from around the world will actually sign up and say, I'll help you fund that. So the internet today is the most amazing place to be able to learn and absorb so much. And people will give back to you if you've got the right kind of ideas.
So Holger, yes, turning ideas into reality. Is it confined only to big business, or how do people at the youth level see their innovative ideas taken through? We've heard about social media. What's your view?
Yeah, I think it's a very important question, because there are so many very good ideas coming out of the very young entrepreneurs and the young thinkers, but many of them will never enter a market because of a lack of funding. So we heard that, for sure, we know there's venture capital, there are business angels, there's crowdsourcing and stuff like that. But I would say this is the way aside from the normal way of funding. Because usually, as an entrepreneur, you would still like to get a good loan from a bank, because that's the normal way. And the banks, until today, from our impression, are not ready to assess the intangible assets of an organization in a good manner. The intellectual capital. So if you are young entrepreneurs, your balance sheet is like zero. You have no assets. Your only asset is your great vision, your mindset, and your very good ideas. And now go with this to a bank. You will not get a loan. In 1978, when Bill Gates founded Microsoft, he was a group of 12 people. 95% of the value of Microsoft in 1978 were intangible assets. If he would have gone to a bank asking for a loan, they would have said, "Thank you very much. Who are you? Bill Gates? Show me your balance sheet and income statement. It's empty? All right, maybe come back later after you were successful with the first product." So that means we need, again, a paradigm shift in the banking sector to support the funding of companies which consist of more intangible assets compared to tangible assets. And some good news, we are delivering at the moment for the Innovation Agency in Malaysia an approach that one of the biggest Malaysian banks will do intellectual capital statements for small and medium-sized enterprises to have a more proper assessment of loans based on the intangible asset and not only on the tangibles. This, I think, is a very important mindset the banks would need to support great innovative ideas for companies and thinkers which are having a very empty balance sheet.
Okay, that's great. Rashid, in terms of the UAE and obviously your responsibilities in Sharjah, how do you encourage innovation? Are all those businesses coming to you? Are they all large businesses, or have you got small business activities coming in? And how do you bring on the young people and the young ideas in your region?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry, I was playing with my iPhone, so I missed most of the question. But generally speaking, any project is created twice. Please write this down, because being a young and you're just starting up, any project has got two creations. First, I call the mental creation, where you see the big picture yourself. No one else can see it in your mind. And I call this a vision. And then there comes the physical creation, where I call the mission. And this is your mission statement. And your ability to connect between the two, your mental creation and physical creation, makes the difference here. And this is why you see that people are successful, though they were started from almost nowhere, not very much budget, not even sometimes totally zero on a balance sheet, but they were able to create a difference. The guy who created, for example, the Amazon.com, he has seen a big opportunity in the internet, because a lot of people, they were using internet. So he decided to quit his job and go in a garage and start selling books through the online. So I advise you to quit your job, guys, right, tomorrow morning, and start something in the garage, right? And you might be successful. So it could be this is the road to the success. Generally speaking, in Sharjah, you have to create a hassle-free environment for the business people to come and invest, with disregard to the culture, to the race, to the religion, to the background they came from. Money does not have any religion. Money needs a place where it sees innovation and sees a pampering, where it can grow. And this is what you have created, a hustle-free environment where people around the world, they could really come, set up their business freely, and they have the right infrastructure. Because the economists say, you and I would travel by train and car, investor travel by infrastructure. So wherever they see the proper location, the right infrastructure, they would come. And this is what we have been trying to do for the last 42 years now, since the creation of my nation back in 1971. This is what we've been trying to create the proper infrastructure and then market yourself globally as a peaceful country, peaceful nation, as a nation where you respect the mindset, a nation where you respect the intellectual, and we have seen the beauty of it. Having more than 210 different nationalities, they visit us every year, either for earning or learning or living around something that really marvelous. And we're proud of this, that we have made it within only 42 years of age. And this is what we have done in Hamriya. As I said, it's about 12,000 companies from about 147 nations. It's not an easy task, it's not an easy game, but we have done it because we understand what business is all about. And we always say your success lies in us, our success lies in you. And that is our motto. So, yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's fair to say it's been a very thought-provoking, very insightful session. I would like to thank Runo Okayama. I would like to thank Mark Lancaster, Holger Cole, and Rashid Al-Lean for being with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for the panel. And thank you very much for your attention this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.